Hi, welcome to Draw Tip Tuesday. My name is Koosje Koenen and I'm here to guide you on your creative journey. A while ago, my patrons on my Patreon page voted for the next Draw Tip Tuesday subject. And the option that got the most votes was the one that said drawing a bigger scene. So there's quite a challenge to capture something that is quite complex to explain, and to actually capture that in a video that I would like to keep under 10 minutes because that's my goal for my YouTube videos here. But there are many different ways to capture a bigger scene. So today I want to show you one of 3 ways to capture a bigger scene, and there are many more, but this is a 3-part series. So today, part 1, and I will explain during the process. I'm using a photo for this because I did try and film it on location, but it was too cold to do it all, and it was kind of a disaster with the filming and everything. So I might actually share that later, but let's first dive into these techniques, have some fun drawing, and then we can get back on location when it's not freezing cold. Sounds like a plan? To me it does. Welcome to Amsterdam. It's cold and it's misty, as you can see. So you might think it's kind of uninspiring weather, but it doesn't really matter whether or not the sun is shining. You can always find something interesting to draw. So on this square, I could sit on one of those benches that we see on the square itself, but I often try and find a place where I have a little bit of foreground, and that gives me layers to work with that can make your drawing a little bit more interesting. And actually using the foreground can be a fantastic start for drawing a scene that in the first place feels a little bit overwhelming. And when you are drawing on location or from a photo, it can be really helpful to distract yourself from thinking about the whole scene in front of you. And first just focus on that bit of foreground. It will give you many landmarks to work with later on. And you start with something that's in the foreground, not the main thing, but still important to get you going. And it doesn't have to be super accurate. I know this is a bicycle, so it's not a simple thing to draw, but I'm trying to capture it shape by shape, doing it fairly quickly. It's not super neat, and I think that's just fine. The bicycle is chained to a traffic sign, so whatever I can fit in, I will do that. And those things will be really helpful because they give me landmarks, what goes where, in the background of this first layer of my drawing. And of course, it's not ideal because I am starting at the right-hand side, which might mean that I will be smearing out my ink when I move into the drawing, but I don't really mind about that. I just want to feel comfortable as I am drawing, and if there are smudges and smears, I don't mind at all. It's all part of the process, and I am not too precious about my drawings anyway. As I'm looking at this jumble of lines, I feel like it might be better if I darken them so that the foreground becomes more of a silhouette. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this, so let's get going. I am excited to draw the next part. It's the second layer of the foreground, so to say. And I'm just taking it bit by bit, piece by piece. And because I already have that foreground, I can measure things. So I can look at the handlebar of the bicycle and measure that against how high that lamp post is actually ending. It's wonky, but it's there. So I'm pretty happy with that. And now that I have that lamppost, it's easy to also add that plant over here. And I think I am ready to draw the building in the back, because that is one of the interesting things about this square. It's a big building, and it has an interesting shape. So yeah, it's time to go to that third layer of this drawing, which is the background. And now I can also skip back to the foreground because it's overlapping. That plant over there is a big overlap of the building, so I'm including that right now before I get confused about what to draw. I'm adding a little bit of shading too. And now that I have that plant here, I can again build out my drawing, finish that line and draw the third plant over there. I can make more sense of the things that I see. So by drawing that extra line, I actually have that bicycle path captured. And now I'm focusing again on the background. There's a car parked in front of the building and I can see dark shadows inside of the archway or whatever you want to call it. The building is quite far away, so it's fine to not fill in too many details. That's okay. You can't really see all the details if you're sitting so far away. Let's fill in the blanks over here. I see some people over there. They are standing and chatting. Okay, this is a photo, but if you would be sitting on this square, you could quickly capture these people with just a few strokes. And then there's another big lamppost in the back. I like these strings of lights, so I will also include those. It feels a little bit fiddly to draw each lamp here, but because it's pretty much in the foreground, I do think to describe what it is, I need to do this. But of course, when you are drawing a scene, you can always leave things out or even add things if you want to, or move things or simplify things like trees. I mean, how many branches do trees have? I cannot draw everything, and why would I? It is pretty clear that I am drawing a wintry tree. Now I'm looking even behind those trees, looking at the buildings in the far background. Now I'm also running out of ink with this pen, so I'm grabbing another pen, same principle, same pen, to draw that big tree on the square, which will fill a lot of that white space over here. And as I go, I make decisions and I also see more and more, because drawing is seeing. The longer you look at a certain scene, you start seeing more things. But if you try to see and capture it all at once, it's very overwhelming. But if you do it bit by bit, part by part, and looking at your drawing, like, oh, here's a little bit of white space, I'm missing some information here. Okay, I'll skip to this left part so I can add another tree over here. And then it starts to make sense, and you are describing the place the way you are experiencing it, rather than trying to capture it all perfectly. You know, I see some sort of vague trees in the background, so I illustrate that with a quick line. And then there's a small building over there, can't even see what it is. Does it matter? It doesn't. There are windows in the buildings. Well, do I actually count the windows and draw them all? No, I'm just indicating the fact that there is something going on, some texture in that building. Because the windows aren't really what I'm interested in here. I'm interested in drawing this scene, this space, place I'm at. It's also about thinking about your story. How can you capture your story? I feel like I have captured everything that I find important in this drawing right now. So I'm now just looking at some of the details that I feel are missing. I think the building in the background is my focal point. Even though I started with that big shape on the foreground, that isn't really important. It does give you that feeling of being in Amsterdam, where there's always bikes everywhere, but it's not your focal point. And so I add just a few details to the building and then add color to the building too, so that it really clearly becomes the focal point of this drawing. And there you have it, capturing a bigger scene, step by step, bit by bit. I hope this was helpful. I hope you will try it. You can either go outside, find a great spot to sit and something that really interests you to draw, and see if you can work it out with this technique. All right, I will see you next week with part 2 of this series, Capturing a Bigger Scene. And if you would also like to vote on subjects to cover in these Draw Tip Tuesday videos, then you can become a patron. I will post the link to my Patreon page below this video. I'll see you next week. Bye!